It's been a long road here for these players from all around the world. We had over 72 countries, maybe even 73 to start things off. We've narrowed it down to just 4. Our first semifinal match awaits. We've got Greece versus Belarus. Hello and welcome to coverage of the World Magic Cup. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth with Simon Gertson, and we are ready for our first semi-final match between Greece and Belarus. Let's meet our teams.
Νίκος Καπώνης,
Πέτρος Διώτης, Παναγιώτης Παπαδόπουλος,
Μπιλ Χρονόπουλος.
Πάμε τώρα!
Глеб.
Дмитрий Андроничек.
Павел Медведский.
Гоша.
You got to love that, Simon. You get a little bit of feel for the personality from our teams down here. Greece versus Belarus. We're going to be starting at our back table. Matchup-wise, Infect versus Affinity. We've got Panagiotis Papadopoulos. That's him right there. His opponent, Pavel Miedzvedsky on Affinity. We picked kind of a quick one to start off with here, potentially. Infect versus Infinity. What are you seeing?
Yeah, it can be over really fast, especially if Infect has one of its best draws. Can also be quite interactive, where blocking plays a huge role for both sides.
Yeah, you know, one of the things that we'll see the Infect player have trouble with are small flying blockers, and those come in a few different forms in Modern, but Affinity definitely has its fair share.
Yeah, and you can't afford to always use a pump spell on every single blocker. That's not how the deck is designed to win.
Okay, Glistener Elf, turn 1 from Panagiotis is a pretty ideal start for him. Let's see what Pavel has, though. Well, he's already got a blocker out. It's an Ornithopter.
Yeah, but a much less ideal start. You can see on the right-hand side of your screen that he doesn't have the explosive draw that he wants. Instead, 2 Steel Overseers on the draw, no Mox Opals, and not even the mana to cast Galvanic Blast.
Oh, wow. Yeah, this could be tough for him without finding that colored mana source. In the meantime, Noble Hierarch for Papadopoulos ensures that Glistener Elf will not be chump blocked here effectively, at least not twice. And that's 2 poison counters already for Pavel. Okay. Yeah, you said it. You know, he does have a lot of good tools. And right there, Mox Opal gives him the chance now to fire off that Galvanic Blast and take down the only real threat on the battlefield. At least at the time, there is an Inkmoth Nexus, though, hiding in the lands.
That was a huge draw. The Mox Opal really tying that hand together. I'm not so sure if getting rid of Glistener was what Pavel needed to do, though. I feel that Inkmoth Nexus is the much scarier card.
Well, he's going to be rethinking that at the moment, too, because that Inkmoth Nexus is in the red zone, Simon, and it's benefiting from the Exalted trigger as well, and threatening to do another 2 poison to Pavel. So, yeah, he just took it. He's already at 4. There's a land for Panagiotis as well. Let's see what his follow-up play is. He's going to have 2 mana available. The idea really doesn't want to see a Blighted Agent here.
Oh no, that would be the dream scenario. You can't beat the perfect draw by Infect. What's more relevant here, I think, is that Steel Oversteel will start to pump. Oh my god, you called it. Yeah, Steel Oversteel will start to pump these other blockers. So now it's really about unblockability, maybe giving a creature protection from artifacts to push through the final 6 points. And 6 is not a lot.
Yeah, Pavel, having already used up a Galvanic Blast, now has 2 different threats that could pose problems for him. That Bladed Agent really an issue. Papadopoulos actually has the win here as well. It looks like Pavel, having fully tapped out, Might of Old Krosa makes it 5/5, plus the trigger is 6, and 6 plus 4 is you're dead, and that's going to do it. Wow, what a quick one. Greece picks up that first game, and, you know, we had an idea that this might happen. Part of the reason why we chose to go to this match first was that this way we can pop over and see the other ones while still keeping up to date on what's going on here. But yeah, it's going to be Greece taking down Game 1. We'll be back right after these messages.
Play for your chance to win sweet prizes at the Standard Showdown. Sleeve up your biggest, baddest, most busted deck and throw down at a participating local game store. 4 weeks only, every Saturday from November 26th through December 17th. Find tournaments near you at magic.wizards.com/Standard Showdown.
Put your game to the test at a Grand Prix. These Magic celebrations are headlined by 2-day open tournaments with the best players in your region as well as top Magic pros from around the world. Find an upcoming Grand Prix near you at magic.wizards.com/Grand Prix.
And welcome back to the feature match area here in Rotterdam. We're here for the World Magic Cup. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe with Simon Gertzen in the booth, jumping into our middle table. Petros Tsiotis playing against Igor Klionski. And you can see we are deep into Game 1 between these two players. As you can see as well, we've got Bant Eldrazi versus Abzan. So two true mid-range decks fighting it out, much different than that first match.
Absolutely, and you can expect a longer game there. Something that's quite interesting to me is that Greece decided to go with the non-standard Abzan deck. It's much more aggressive with, for example, the Sea Trino, not a card you see in normal Abzan lists.
Yeah, we've seen that Siege Rhino do pretty good work thus far as well for the team from Greece, and it looks like it's kind of holding down the fort here, at least precariously for the moment. Couple of cards in hand for Igor. He's got Matter Reshaper and a land.
Something that I've noticed is that these Eldrazi decks tend to run out of steam after a while. The only card that is really a good mana sink is Eldrazi Displacer, but that can be killed rather easily by most opponents.
So it looks like Igor's just going to go ahead and send in here. He's going to utilize the Exalted triggers from these Noble Hierarchs to make no great blocks for Petros, maybe encouraging a chump block with a Spirit token. And that's what he does.
Without the Exalted, there might have been a double block.
Yeah.
But not like this.
Wow. I can tell you, though, the hand on the other side of the table is looking pretty good. He's got Liliana the Last Hope, a Tarmogoyf for Scavenging News, and that was a Siege Rhino freshly drawn as well.
Lots of value there. Only a single green source, so not able to deploy the 2/2 drops. However, just casting another Siege Rhino makes a really big difference because the Drowner of Hope cannot just tap down the board.
So it looks like Petros is going to use up his mana efficiently by casting probably a Tarmogoyf, in addition to flashing back a Lingering Souls. So he's going to save the Siege Rhino for now, but this gives him a wider board, probably better against that Drowner of Hope with those Eldrazi Scions.
Exactly, it gives him really good chump blockers in the form of the Spirit tokens. I would assume that the Tarmogoyf is at least as big as a Siege Rhino, because there is an artifact in the graveyard, so that's usually not there. Creature, instant, sorcery, and land. So that's five card types. Very interesting to see Liliana the Last Hope show up in Modern.
Yeah.
Usually Liliana of the Veil is just dominates in that Planeswalker fight.
Car's got yet another land to play. You know, I heard Luis kind of joking as we've gone through the weekend about There's a conspiracy theory that Bant Eldrazi is running 36 lands. It just seems to have been flooding out relatively consistently in the feature match area for some reason, and it looks like quite a few lands here for Igar as well.
But it is a deck with a lot of mana sources. When you think about it, the Noble Hierarchs, sure, Exalted gives you something in the late game, but ultimately the utility of your cards goes down rather quickly when the game goes longer.
Wow. Myth busted. It's true.
I would like to see Eldrazi Displacer show up, because that's the card that can really dominate a whole board. All the other creatures, not so much. Reality Smasher, of course, is also a good draw.
Sure.
But you can see how the ban of Eye of Ugin not only changed the early game, but also took away this kind of unbeatable late game.
Yeah. Yeah, we saw that a lot, especially in the mirror when those cards were legal. That would happen. Interestingly, here, Igar decided to use one of his Scions to tap down the Tarmogoyf so that it couldn't block. And he sent in the Matter Reshaper, again with the Exalted from the Noble Hierarchs. And it actually got through. This is a very tentative race between these players. You can see they're both chipping away and kind of getting in for damage here or there. How big is that Tarmogoyf?
Yeah, I'm
assuming 5/6 at this point, just given the fact that sending it into a drowner.
I counted 5 earlier, so it's a 5/6. The problem is really that the upside deck trying to raise Eldrazi is really dangerous. You have the Drowner of Hope already on the battlefield, but the fact that you have Siege Rhinos means you kind of want to be racing.
Right. And you can see the second Siege Rhino to the board here really does throw that race in favor of Abzan. You know, and also there's a pair of Shambling Vents down there that can help wreak a little bit of havoc with the damage math if it comes down to it.
Petro's mana has not been too cooperative. Single green source. This is only the second white source that he's found, so he has been quite restricted, even though he could deploy a lot of his spells. Now there's a Reality Smasher joining the mix, and that could actually turn this around.
Kleonski's down to 6 life, facing an impressive board.
A play I really liked was that the blocking Scion token was used to tap down the Spirit that was left on defense, rather than a Siege Rhino. Because now, Zeoltius doesn't have this easy chump block available, but would only be able to trade with Matter Reshaper, giving Kleonski another card.
And he doesn't want to do that, so he's instead going to just take the 5 damage, drop down to 9. The Siege Rhinos helping buoy his life total. I mean, think about it. He'd be at 3 without those Rhinos. And there's the somewhat rare defensive Reality Smasher. Another land off the top for Petros. He still has that Scavenging Ooze, another card that can help him win a race if it gets really close, and then that Liliana, the Last Hope, as well.
Oh, Igar might be doing the math on an all-out attack. I can't believe that's doable, though.
You think Petro's lining up a potential Alpha Strike here?
Yeah, but it doesn't work out. You see, there are 2 5/5s on the other side of the table. And even with the Liliana, the Last Hope, to give -2, -1 after combat, or even before combat, you're not going to be able to attack with everything here.
Okay. Well, he may have to set it up for a 2-turn sequence.
You do have a 2-turn sequence in the air. So
yes,
actually there is not much reason to attack with the ground creatures, I would say.
That's exactly what he's going to do. Just jam with all 3 spirits in the air, dropping Igar down to 3 and setting up a potential victory next turn. Scavenging Ooze is added to the battlefield as well. He has no other green mana, so you feel like he may as well just cast that Liliana, right?
Absolutely, yes. It will not do too much. If you get rid of a Noble Hierarch here, I don't think it affects the board at all. You could also give one of your opponent's attackers a bit less power, just to not be dead to those 2 creatures coming through for some reason. But although it's really unlikely.
Yeah, I guess another Drowner of Hope, but he's just got so many blockers back. 4 blockers for Petros.
Exactly. Kleonski just doesn't have the amount of creatures that he would need. And I really like this going from ground assault to air assault strategy.
Igor's taking a moment to consult with his teammates because he's got an Eldrazi Sky Spawner, which actually buys him a turn, at least if it's only an Air Assault that we're talking about here.
The problem is that it has only 1 toughness.
Oh, which is going to get picked off by Liliana.
So now Igor kind of has to attack Liliana if he thinks that he cannot beat the cannot beat this board.
So now Petros has to decide, because I don't think he would mind too much, all things considered, if his Liliana went away here, but he's got to wonder why. What is going on? And they'll probably come to the conclusion that there's a Sky Spawner. He only needs to keep Liliana alive.
No, he needs to realize that a flyer is the card that Igor needs here to stay alive. There are other cards, of course, but that's the most likely card.
Yeah, this is a nice double block here from Petros. Even if Igor had some type of removal spell, he'd be fine, as Liliana would survive and he'd maintain his 3 lethal spirits in the air anyway. Kleonski has 1 card left in hand that Petros doesn't know about, but that's not going to stop him from going for the win here. There's really no downside. Wow, he actually just minuses Liliana.
There's a Siege Rhino in the graveyard.
He's just going to do it the non-attacking way, so this plays around any type of removal spell or anything. Okay, so Siege Rhino gets the job done, actually accounting for 9 of the damage there from the 3 Siege Rhinos. That is brutal. In the meantime, I do have an update, by the way, from Table A. The team captain from Greece, Bill Chronopoulos, picked up the first game versus Dmitry and Dronchik playing Jund. That's Dredge versus Jund. So, all told, it's a clean sweep for Greece in the game 1s.
That's pretty impressive.
Wow.
Also, the team that's on the play this round, so definitely favored in those game 1s.
Okay. Yeah, that bearing itself out here as well. Okay, well, let's pop back over to Panagiotis Papadopoulos versus Pavel Miedzvedsky. This is where we started off our semifinal, and we are back. Affinity versus Infect went very quickly for Panagiotis. This one looks like it's going to be a little bit more controlled. And interestingly here, Simon, Panagiotis has used a Nature's Claim on a Mox Opal.
Yes, wants to limit the mana development of the affinity play. Oh wow, this is super aggressive.
Wait, does he have another one? Oh, he's going to even get the Glimmer Void here.
That explains this aggressive use of removal spells.
Oh man! So he went Nature's Claim, Dismember, Nature's Claim, and as part of the deal, got a Glimmer Void tossed in for free. Wow.
Yeah, sometimes when you have these kind of hands with so many sideboard cards, just using them in this way is super powerful. It's kind of unfortunate that Pavel didn't have a 2-drop to cast, though.
I'm sure that's what he's thinking right now, because that's kind of game, right? I mean, how in the world is Pavel supposed to come back from that? 4 permanents went away, and he was reduced to 0 lands. The next turn, he didn't even play a land. This time he did.
Yeah, and now he has a backup Mox Opal, so it wouldn't all be that bad, but he doesn't have the 3rd permanent to actually get Metalcraft.
He can't get Metalcraft, so he can cast Galvanic Blast or Whip Flare.
This Infect deck has been crushing all weekend. I think I've seen Infectors dominate so many matchups. It's not even funny.
I agree with you. It's not funny, and that's it. Wow, those were 2 absolutely blazing games from Panagiotis Papadopoulos, and somehow they've already won 1 match.
Yeah, amazing stuff. Game 1 wasn't much of a game because the affinity draw was so slow. And this one was just amazing, using 3 spells to deal with your opponent's first 4 cards on the battlefield.
Okay, well, that's going to leave us with Bill Chronopoulos versus Dmitry and Dronchik. And we're going to check in with them. Again, this was Dredge versus Jund. We haven't got a chance to see this one yet. But Bill, the team captain, picked up game number 1. And if we see him win here, that's Greece to the finals. Again.
Yeah.
by the way.
Amazing story. I love it. The fact that you heard the interview.
Yeah. Why don't you relay that again for people that didn't get to hear the pregame interview that we had?
So the very short story is that the captain that is now the captain of the Greek team was the team captain 2 years ago, and they lost in a heartbreaking final to Denmark. The famous Doom Blast, heard all around the world.
Whoa. Dane Blast.
I'm sorry. So
you don't get to play on words that good and then not use it, Simon.
The captain of Greece has been basically motivating, pushing his team to its limits because he wants that extra game win that separated him from the winner's trophy.
Bill has also taken a mulligan to 6 and scryed his card to the bottom. He's also facing a powerful sideboard card on turn 0 here from Dimitri. He's got Leyline of the Void against Dredge.
Exactly. That's the price you pay for having the best, one of the best game 1 matchups in the format. Jund has very little ways of interacting with the graveyard in game 1, and the scavenging ooze is far too expensive to matter. So now Dredge gets to play a difficult game where Leyline of the Void exiles everything that goes to the graveyard from now on.
Wow, I could tell by the way that Dimitri drew that card that he needed something specific, and I know what it was now. It was a land, Simon, and he didn't find it.
That's actually a super interesting discussion we've had, and that we will see matter in Modern over and over again. How happy are you with these extreme sideboard cards like Leyline of the Void? Can you actually mulligan a hand that has it? Or is it better to keep something that needs lands or that needs something to get there? And usually we see players...
They always keep it. If they see that key sideboard card, they're like, I'll figure out the rest later.
Yeah. Ignore the usually. It's always, right?
Always.
if you open on 7 or 6 and the Leyline is there, that's just what you need to have a chance in this matchup.
Now, we know how good these cards are against a deck like Dredge, for example. Where does that leave Bill as far as game plans go? I mean, are we talking about hard casting 3/3s for 3? Are we at that point?
Not really, because you're not going to be able to keep up with the engine that is Jund, the mid-range engine that is Jund. What you want to do is you want to proactively board in sideboard. You want to board in enchantment removal.
I see.
Because you know about Leyline of the Void. Now it's all public, but even if you didn't, you would be expecting something like this.
Well, Bill has not yet found his answer for Leyline, so
it's
Narcomoeba.
There's nothing wrong with casting Narcomoebas and Stinkweed Imps, but you have to be careful. This blue mana will not do much else.
Yeah.
So you really want to prepare for the turn where you actually find that Destructive Revelry, for example, if that's a card that Greece brought in.
Well, we're getting a peek at the aggro curve from the Dredge deck. Insolent Neonate into Narcomoeba.
Yeah, it looks more like a limited game.
Not a great limited draw either. This could be a tough one for Bill Chronopoulos. Let's see if he can find an answer for that Leyline. Or, I was going to say if Dimitri stumbled long enough on mana to give him the opening, but it looks like a swamp off the top for Dimitri is going to... not let him cast a Tarmogoyf, actually.
No, but Terminate and 2 Lightning Bolts are live. Some of the more exciting games happen when neither of the decks get to do what they really want to do. Dimitri is restricted by his mana, and Bill is of course restricted by his opponent's Leyline of the Void.
Right.
Ultimately, it will come down to a somewhat weird race.
He just went 1, 2, 3, Simon.
You called it, yes.
Here's Surprised Amalgam, cast for 3 mana. This has been a very strange game. Lightning Bolt, you're 1/1. And we're likely going to see some combination of Lightning Bolts and Terminates to take down the board state from Bill. And once that happens, if he doesn't find an answer for the Leyline, Jund is just going to take over, right? I mean,
yes.
1 Tarmogoyf will chew away at the life total of the opponent quite effectively.
And Kalitas is amazing against Dredge, of course. So ultimately, while you're keeping the dream alive by casting these creatures, the one backup plan that can really work for Dredge is to hard cast Golgari Grave Trolls. But of course, that doesn't work if you just don't have a graveyard to work with.
They just die. All right, here we go. Terminate. Are we going to see the bolt as well, Dimitri, or are you going to let that Narcomoeba peck away in the air? He is going to let it happen, and still let it happen. One card left? Yeah, Bill says. Well, a Thragtusk off the top's not really what the doctor ordered here. He still needs to find green mana to unlock his hand or another untapped mana source to play a Kalitas. He's probably going to have to use the lightning bolt here, right? You don't want to
assume
take
so. I would use it. You're not forced to, but I don't see a reason not to because the flyers are ultimately difficult to stop anyway.
Yeah, and for sure Bill would have cast another Prized Amalgam had he had it, so you're probably not going to find a better target. He's actually going to target the Neonate, it looks like.
Yeah, which does have mana, so it's also not super easy to block.
The thing that Dimitri knows, of course, is that when he does find that land for Kalitas, there's no racing Kalitas with these little tiny creatures.
No, and also chances are really high that the next land will produce green, because you have 3 non-green producing lands already on the battlefield. So Thragtusk is not too far away.
Right. Incredibly unlikely that these Narcomoebas go the distance, but let's see. Dimitri does need to find a land in the next few turns, and he whiffed again, actually. Well, he takes away a Cathartic Reunion, but that wasn't going to do anything anyway.
That wasn't being cast if you don't have extra cards to discard.
All right, another try. Dimitri taps the top of the deck, says, I'd like to find a land, please. No! Once again, it's a lightning bolt off the top.
Yeah, I don't think you can complain about lightning bolt too much, because going from a 5-turn clock to a 10-turn clock makes a huge difference in your chances to stabilize.
Okay, another threat? No, Bill hasn't found a threat yet, but he might. Faithless Looting, he finds a pair of lands, unfortunately. He's got 3 lands in hand, so he'll pick the 2 that he'd like to discard.
I'm not a fan of casting Faithless Looting.
No?
No, because you get to draw 2 and discard 2. But if you wait a turn to cast Cathartic Reunion, you actually get to draw 3 for effectively the same cost. Also, playing out your lands means that you don't have that extra fodder for these discard effects.
Okay, well, yeah, I did notice that Bill played that last Arid Mace out of his hand. Must want to crack a fetch to get a land out of his library, but he's going to be pretty bummed if he finds one of his drawn discard spells and doesn't have anything to throw away to it. In the meantime, a big happening here for this game. Dimitri did finally find a Verdant Catacombs. He went and got a forest, and there is Kalitas, Trader of Get, which threatens to really completely take over this game from this point.
There is a good reason to play that land, because Bill did not have green mana available. As you might remember, he had to fetch a blue source on turn 2 to get that Narcomoeba going, which left him without green mana until now.
I can tell you, Simon, that Chad is calling this one.
Yes?
Done. GG, they say.
The forest, I think the forest, it was the nail in the coffin, because now Kalitas is just unraceable with a 1/1 flyer. Thragtusk will follow, because the Dredge deck is just not so scary when it has 1 card in hand and no cards in the graveyard.
Right. By the way, another land off the top for Dimitri means Thragtusk is going to hit the battlefield and threaten to clean up this mess properly quickly.
The Dredge deck of Grease does not run any kind of 5-color lands, so it's taking away more fetch lands from the Unified Modern deck building pool, which is quite interesting, because we've seen a lot of mana confluences in these Dredge decks as well.
And there's that Thragtusk to put Dimitri back up to 12 and really put this thing out of reach for Bill. He's going to do a draw step and say, all right, I've seen enough. But honestly, Simon, isn't that how it's supposed to go? If you do draw your Silver Bullet sideboard card, isn't it supposed to do that kind of thing to the Dredge deck?
It is, but if you know that you should be expecting Leylands of the Void, and you have those 4 Natures claims.
Which they do know, by the way.
They do know, well, they know now. But did you know it when you wrote your deck list?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
It's about actually realizing that Dredge will have a target on its head, and that Leyland of the Void will be one of the cards that any deck can play. And that's
not even just decks that play black.
Exactly. So if you have white mana, sure, you can play Rest in Peace. And then maybe the Affinity deck wants the Tormod script. But the Junt decks or any kind of black-green decks are really, really happy to get that ley line because they can also cast it on turn 4.
Yeah, which does end up being relevant sometimes. Okay, that means, of course, that we're going to go back to our middle table. You can see Petros versus Igor here. This is Bant Eldrazi versus Abzan. We saw Abzan do serious work with Siege Rhinos. Card we haven't seen a lot of in Modern recently, but did good work.
And once again, such a hand from the Bant Eldrazi player that's just prone to flooding. You have you had 2 Displacers and a Noble Hierarch, so already 5 mana sources and 2 3/3s. A top deck Worship might be a silver bullet, but I don't really believe that this will help you against a deck with Siege Rhinos. It might be a bit more potent against the classical Abzan decks, but if you're playing against a deck that's packing life loss effects, it seems like a waste of a card.
Yeah, that really does seem not super strong. And interestingly too, we did see in game 1 that Petros can even get back cards like Siege Rhino and recycle those type of effects occasionally using Liliana. So if this does come down to a game where Worship is barely keeping Igor alive, it might not get the job done down the stretch, as Petros is going to have a lot of outs in his deck to get the job done if he can get him down to that 1 life.
No, very honestly, I think this is very close to a mulligan to actually include this card in your deck.
It's that bad, huh?
I would think that Rest in Peace is more impactful, simply because it shuts down Tarmogoyf and it doesn't allow the opponent to reanimate creatures with Liliana's -2 ability.
Right.
I would like to see high impact cards like Elspeth, Sun's Champion, maybe even Blessed Alliance. At least it does something.
Right. Okay, well, Kliansky's got a Reality Smasher here on turn 4. And that is going to apply massive pressure. 6 damage coming in. Petros is down to 7.
It is the card that needs to win him the game.
Ooh, but there's a damnation from Petros, sending everything to the graveyard. It's only a Noble Hierarch and a Reality Smasher, but that's a big deal. Also, by the way, you had harsh words for the Worship there. It's even worse here. He doesn't control a creature. Like, he's going to play it, and it's not actually active at the moment.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but this is just not what you want to be doing after your opponent wrathed your board.
You can see the Siege Rhino in hand, by the way, for Petros as a way to restabilize, get back up to 10, and start pounding in for a lot of damage. He may have a more mana-efficient turn, though, if he's got a land drop to hit. And he does. So he's going to play Lingering Souls and a Tarmogoyf this turn. And really has completely turned the tables now on Igor Kliansky. Igor had a nice start. He had him down to 7 life with a Reality Smasher in play, facing nothing, and now all of a sudden, he's the one on the back heels.
That one of Damnation from the sideboard, of course, was huge there. Otherwise, the Abzan deck does have trouble to deal with such a large Reality Smasher pumped up by Exalted. Now it's looking like the complete opposite. There are just so many card types in the graveyards. Sorcery, instant, land, and creature. So that's at least a 4-power Tarmogoyf.
It's a quick clock. Was that a Displacer? Yeah. Okay, an Eldrazi Displacer for Kliansky. And he's going to play his last card. It's a land.
3rd one of the game. But what are you planning to do now? Are you going to just try to kill spirits with it for 3 mana? Are you blinking Tarmogoyf. I'm sure you don't want to blink Siege Rhinos.
Right. We did see that happen once earlier, but it didn't end up winning the game. Desperate times in that match.
Yeah.
In the
Unsurprisingly.
Right. By the way, Petros just drew a Path to Exile for the turn, and he can now take out something. So you asked a second ago, Simon, well, what is your plan here? And it looks like it is to minimize the amount of damage taken and blink the Tarmogoyf. But wow, in addition to the Path to Exile, he's got an Abrupt Decay, which is just going to take down the Displacer. It didn't do much, and still leave him the mana to flash back Lingering Souls. And Petros Giotis is really just running away with this one at this point. Remember, Panagiotis Papadopoulos won a match already with Infect, and this one looks like it might be going to Greece. If he wins this, they're through.
The best card I can think of here is Drown of Hope. But even that doesn't really stop the Flyers. So what do you do when you reach that one point of life? You're being kept alive by Worship, and your opponent puts Siege Rhino on the stack.
Right. And interestingly, it feels like Petros is actually just holding the Siege Rhino in his hand, preferring to cast other things so that he can make sure that that doesn't happen here.
Oh, absolutely. He should not cast that Siege Rhino.
Right. And he's not going to. He's just going to pass the turn back with Igor Klyansky at 5, desperately hanging on for the team from Belarus.
He doesn't even have a creature.
He doesn't have a creature, and he extends the hand, and that means that Greece is through to the finals. They are the winners of our first semifinal match. Congratulations to Greece. They earned the chance to try to do one better than they did just a few years ago and take that trophy home. Belarus, fantastic run, it must be said, for the team from Belarus. You can see smiles down there in the feature match area from Belarus, and fantastic stuff from them. But they are going to have to settle for a top 4 finish here in the World Magic Cup here in Rotterdam. That's Simon Gertzen. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe. It is our pleasure to bring you coverage here on the big Sunday, right? This is, of course, when the most intense matches happen. We're playing Unified Modern all day today. We're already through our first semifinal. That leaves us with one more semifinal. And then, of course, the finals a little bit later on today to determine our World Magic Cup champion. We're going to have more action for you in just a little bit. We'll be back after these messages.
There were 73. Now there's just 3. Greece are through to the final of the World Magic Cup. Now we settle in for our second semi-final to find out who's going to join them. Can Bill Chronopoulos get the job done 2 years after a Dane blast for the ages took the title away from Greece? Well, welcome back to the news desk. Rich Hagan alongside Brian David Marshall and Simon Gertzen, fresh out of the booth. So let's get to the story of the day so far. We'll show you the bracket and show you what has been happening. And we began the morning, BDM, with Australia, the number 4 seed, up against the number 5. That was Italy, our first semi-final. As you can see, Italy won that one, but a good match.
Yeah, absolutely a good match, and you really got to see what formidable opponents the Italian players were, playing their decks expertly and efficiently, and just not leaving their opponent any room for one of those miraculous top decks to get out of anything.
Talking of miraculous top decks, Simon, Greece faced Ukraine in our next quarterfinal, and there Greece won very handily, but there was a fantastic moment for the Ukraine with Sergei Suchalski and his Titan shift, Goryo's Vengeance through the breach, all that stuff.
These decks are just crazy, right? Sometimes it looks like it's completely lost for one side, and then a single card, a single sequence of draws can completely change the game.
Yeah, huge congratulations to Ukraine for making it this far, but they were done at the quarterfinal stage. Next up, we had Finland against Belarus, two more European nations, and this one, BDM, how'd it go?
This went to Belarus here. Team Finland quietly, moving along this tournament, but Belarus was able to displace them here in the semifinals.
Yeah, Pavel Miedzveski and the team got the job done in that one. And then we went to the top of the bracket. That was Belgium against Panama. Belgium, who'd been setting the tournament alight, they didn't lose on day one. They were quickly in to the top 8 pretty much at the earliest opportunity. And then in the quarterfinal, they defeated Panama. BDM, let's just take a moment, though, to acknowledge one of the great stories of the weekend. Panama, who I think were they 73rd last time round?
Yeah, Panama finished last place last year at the World Magic Cup. Have never had anything approaching a top 8 finish like this. Sal Alvarado and the team got to the top 8 and acquitted themselves admirably all weekend long. I know a lot of people stayed up to watch them, got to see them on camera. Sorry it wasn't a better result for you, but we'll get to see them in Dublin and maybe see some of these guys come back next year for the World Magic Cup again.
Yeah, Sergio Bonilla, just one of the 4 who'll be super excited to make their Pro Tour debut early next year. So well done to Panama, but their run ends at that point. So then we're into the semi-finals, and Simon, you've just come from the booth where you were commentating briefly on Greece against Belarus, because my word, there was some lightning action there.
Very brief games. In fact, did what it did best, and the affinity draws just couldn't keep up. It was if this was your first game of Modern you've ever seen, it didn't look like two decks matching up fairly against each other. This was one deck demolishing the other. Yeah. In fact, demolishing Affinity.
Utterly brutal. It means that Greece are through to the finals, and they await the winner of our second semi-final, which is where we're going to turn our attention now. It's the number 1 overall seed, Belgium. There they are, the 2 brothers, Peter and Pascal Viren. Peter on the right, Pascal second from the left. On the left, it's Jerome Bastonia, their modern expert, and Branko Nyrik, former gold pro. A tremendous team. No weak links anywhere. Who are they up against? The reigning team world champions. On the left, Andrea Mengucci returning from last year's winning team. Next to him, Alessandro Casamenti. Then it's Mattia Rizzi, 3 Grand Prix top 8. And a Modern Pro Tour top 8 slot went to Alessandro Portaro in the very first Modern Pro Tour 2011, won by another Italian, Samuela Estrati. But Simon, here's the big thing. It's all about matchups. So let's take a look at the 3 matchups that are coming here. And I know that, Brian, you've got a lot of insight into how the Italians think this is going to go. So we start off with Jerome Bastoni in the AC with Goryo's Vengeance for Belgium against Infect for Italy. First, Simon, how do you think this goes?
This is almost purely a race because neither of these decks is trying to interact very much. Belgium on the play with Jerome piloting Goryo's Vengeance, I would give him an edge, but it's still entirely possible that Infect wins on turn 2.
BDM, how do the Italians see it?
I think they see this as their closest matchup, but don't love it. It's the other 2 that really concern them.
So they think they're unfavored even in the Vengeance against Infect?
Well, they think they're unfair. If you just have to be on Facebook and see Andrea Mengucci post, he's like, we got bad matchups and we're on the draw.
Okay, Branko Naya Burn against Lantern Control, Simon?
Lantern control is good when it can keep the opponent off key cards to disrupt their strategy. If all your cards deal damage to the face, that's really difficult to do. Naya Burn is one of the scariest matchups that Lantern can face.
Okay, and then C Infect against Ad Nauseam.
There's a part of me that really likes Ad Nauseam, but the reason not to play it is Infect.
Oh, wow.
It's as simple as that.
Well, this sounds brutal for Italy. Sounds like the Belgians are in the driving seat. BDM had a chance to meet with both team captains at the start of the final day.
I'm here with Belgian national champion Peter Vieren. Peter, Team Belgium has been pretty comfortably rolling through this tournament. You only faced elimination once through the first 2 days of the tournament. A little different here on Sunday. Ideally, you'll face it 3 times. How do you feel like your team has worked out for you?
The team has been amazing. I think the synergy between our team was great. We had specializations between the 4 members that were perfectly compatible, and I think that is why everything went so smooth. Of course, there's some luck involved always, but the team was great, and everything went smooth, as you said. Only 1 elimination round.
Of course, it doesn't get any more special than getting a chance to play Magic for the highest stakes with your brother. What has that experience been like?
That's really great. It's amazing. Like, I was super happy the moment he qualified already, and just discussing every play with him is just awesome for both of us. I think when we both discuss a play, we can get into like every detail of the play, and we understand each other perfectly, and I think we can play very well together.
Now, I understand that we see a lot of different teams speaking a lot of different languages, but language was actually a little bit of an obstacle for Team Belgium in terms of how you communicated.
Yeah, so Belgium has Dutch and French speaking parts, and Jérôme Bastogne is from Brussels. He speaks mostly French. His Dutch is okay, but we mostly communicate in English to make it a bit easier for him. But it's fine. Everyone speaks decent English, so we can manage.
And everyone, of course, speaks Magic.
Yeah.
Okay, well, good games the rest of the way here at the World Magic Cup to you, your brother, and your teammates.
Okay, thank you.
I'm here with the captain of Team Italy, Andrea Mengucci. Andrea, Team Italy won the World Magic Cup last year. You guys are in the top 8 again this year. What's the difference being a member of the team last year and now being the captain of the World Magic Cup team? How are those 2 roles different for you?
I don't think that's a big difference between this, because just like last year and this year, the team is so much together that there's any of us stand above the other 3. It's just a whole together. We took all the decisions together for deciding which deck to play, for deciding which seal deck to play. It was just a whole lot together, and the same as last year. There was not any of us stood in front of the others. It was just a whole.
Now, coming into this event, you're obviously Platinum Pro. Alessandro Portaro is someone who has Pro Tour Top 8 experience. Mattia Rizzi is someone who's on the rise on the Magic scene, a Gold Pro at a very young age. But there was a wild card on the team in Alessandro Casamenti, someone we haven't really seen, even though he's had a little bit of Grand Prix success, it's been outside of the top 8.
Yeah.
So tell us what a secret weapon he's been for Team Italy.
So Alessandro is a guy that, as you said, after winning the World Magic Cup qualifier with the Nauseam, a 9-round tournament, for those of you who plays a smaller World Magic Cup qualifier, and then he proceeded to go lose the last round to make top 8 in GP Rimini with since he's a friend of mine, I just gave him a Bad Company deck list and sideboard plan. He just copy pasted and proceeded to go X3, so it's good record, top 16. And then the GP afterward was GP Lille Modern at Nauseam. It was 9-0 after the day, and then finished X3, which again is a very good record. So he's on the rise, and he's playing. We both played perfectly during this tournament, and it's going perfect, as I said yesterday.
All right, Andrea Mengucci, good luck going first to first the rest of the way here at the Magic World Cup.
Greece wait in the final for either Belgium or Italy. Simon, sum it up in one word. Who's going to the final to face Greece?
Belgium.
BDM, agree?
Salerno inside of me wants Italy, but my head is telling me it's going to be Belgium.
Italy think they're significant underdogs, and they don't think that very often, but the cards will reveal